Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream. Yet again, Andrew Tate is causing waves over the internet. I don't actually follow Andrew Tate too much. I've just been seeing him coming up a lot in my feed lately. Apparently, according to what the social medias have to say and what YouTube has to say, apparently he has converted to Islam. It looks like that might have happened a month ago or so, or a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure. I know, like maybe a few days ago, he had this like interview on his podcast that blew up and stuff. But Andrew Tate has become yet again another internet sensation based on this new conversion of his. Now, I don't know a lot about Andrew Tate's background. I think he was like an atheist, and I think he might have claimed Christianity for a little bit, and now he's claiming Islam. So I just know he has a big mouth and has said a lot of things and has gotten a lot of controversy over the years. So we'll see what he has to say about why he converted to Islam. And I would just like to learn more about kind of what he has to say about how he got to his positions and learn more about it. So I think it's going to be a fun one. I think we're going to enjoy this. And as always, if you enjoy what you see today, if you like what you see, leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe and join the Light the World community because we're always growing here, learning more about other faiths and religions and continually exploring the world, really. And as always, if you also want to interact with this live chat, if you're on live right now, thank you for joining me. If you want to interact with the live chat, you gotta be a subscriber. So you gotta subscribe to chat along with me live. So anyway, as we go through here, I hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you guys like it, and I'm going to give you my perspective from an outsider as a Christian and see what he has to say for what he believes. All right, let's jump into it.
I wanted to ask you now, because this is the hot topic, especially in the Muslim community, about your conversion.
Yeah.
So tell us the story, like what happened exactly.
Well, I think a lot of people who've been following me for a while understand that I've been very respectful of Islam for a long time.
Yeah, sure.
I was born in a Christian country. I was raised as a Christian. And I've always been very respectful of Islam. And it's become more and more obvious to me and more pertinent that Islam is the last religion on the planet. When I talk about Islam, because I'm new to it,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit careful, right? Because I'm new to it. I'm certainly not a scholar. There's so much I need to learn. I know I'm on a learning journey. I'm not here to sit here and talk scripture. I don't know those things yet. I'm here to learn.
Yeah.
But
And we're here at your assistance.
thank you,
Anything
bro.
want,
Thank
so
you.
honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it's just for me, it feels like the last religion on earth. I feel like there's no other religion. People say to me, why did you convert? And I said, I don't really feel it as a conversion. It's almost like I knew God was real, and now I've become religious. And they say, well, you were religious before. I was like, religious before how? Christian? What does Christian mean? Like, who's not a Christian? You go to Christian nations, and everyone says they're a Christian. Look how they live their lives. Go into the average church. Is anyone actually fearful of God? Anybody? No. The girls are out on Saturday night drinking, and then they turn up to church because their parents made them. Like, there's no substance to the religion. And also, Islam very closely reflects my personal beliefs.
All right, that's an interesting note he makes. I'm not sure where he was born or where he grew up. I think he's from the UK. I think he was born from the UK. I think so. I don't know if he came over to America or lives in the States or not. But I think this is an interesting point that he makes about Christianity. Because I kind of know a little bit about Andrew Tate's background. I know he runs or used to run. I'm not sure if he's going to revoke this now with his new faith. But I know he used to run something with OnlyFans, which is basically a pornography sort of website. And he was known for kind of pimping women. And he was also known for being a big brash mouth and all those different things. And according to how he talks about it, he was raised Christian. Apparently he would have called himself a Christian for at least some time of his life. If that was the type of lifestyle he lived and he took on the name Christian, of course he's going to attract the type of Christians who also reflect how he lived his life. So it sounds like he wasn't really living by what the scripture said. It doesn't sound like he was actually living a traditional Christian lifestyle. It sounds like he was living not like a Christian, calling himself a Christian, and therefore attracted the same type of people who did the same thing. So it's hard for me to take that claim from him very seriously when it sounds like he wasn't living a lifestyle, because the type of person you are is the type of people you attract normally. If you're an awful type of person, you're going to attract a lot of bad apples. If you're a good type of person, you're going to attract a lot of good people. Good company helps build up good morals. Bad company helps build up bad morals. So I know in my experience, having grown up in the church and being a Christian, I live a lifestyle that is very, very moral. I abstain from sex. I abstain from drunkenness. I abstain from a lot of different things. And I know a lot of my Christian friends who do the same thing. So of course, there's going to be people who call themselves a religion and walk away and stray away and don't live up to those morals. Of course, we're going to have subsectors of every religion. who stray from the actual fundamentals of that religion, no matter what religion it is, because I've seen people from all walks of faith who have been traditional and stuck to their religion, and people who have claimed religion and not walked by it. So that's just a broad claim that is generally applied. That may not be true for everyone, because I know in my experience that's not true. Christians are very moral, and the people I know are very moral people. But that aside, I just think that's an interesting claim to make. I haven't grown up in the UK, so maybe in the UK it's like that. But in my community, it has not been like that.
My personal life, I've learned that if you don't have standards and you're not a strong person who's prepared to defend his ideas, you'll be crushed.
Yes.
And we look at most religions in the world today, which are not.
Thank you, Alif41, Alaran. Forgive me if I say your name wrong. And Dr. Mispa, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for leaving your comments. I'll have to check out some of those videos you guys drop in the comments sometime in the future when I do another live stream.
Prepared to defend their ideas. What's happened to them? They're just getting crushed. And now we have Christianity as an idea, which has basically said, well, we can't set any firm rules because everyone will just quit. So instead, let's make it so easy to be a Christian that nobody has to put any effort in.
Yeah.
And then accept everybody no matter what. And hopefully we can keep the church doors open. That's not God to me, you know?
Yeah.
God to me
agree.
is strong. God to me is something to be feared.
Yeah.
God to me is someone that people are afraid to mock.
Yeah.
God to me is someone that you have to go out of your way to prove something to. God to me has red lines.
Yeah.
Like God to me represents the Islamic faith. The Christian God to me, I don't see God. I can't explain. I don't see anything there. So to me, it was the only logical choice in the end.
I agree. I agree sort of with what he's saying to a certain extent. Now, I agree that the church, there's a lot of churches out there that do try to do this thing, or like, oh, we accept everyone. But then if you actually go to those churches, a lot of them actually don't really read the Bible or don't really actually take it seriously. And they throw the Bible out and they just use New Age philosophy. They aren't really churches, in my opinion. The churches that I know of that are actually true to the Bible say, no, you can't be a Christian and live in sin. You can't be this and that. So, like, there is an actual level of intolerance there, if you will. We believe in mercy, that people repent of their sins and start following Christ, then they will be saved and they will find mercy. But there is still that level of commitment. Again, I don't know what churches he was around, but I know churches, in my experience, aren't like that. There, of course, there are going to be some out there, of course. But anyway, I just think that's an interesting point to be made clear, that not all churches are the way he describes them to be. So I don't know what his personal experience is, but it's not the same for everyone.
Nah, man. I mean, as you're saying this, I'm sure many people are like ecstatic and extremely happy. It's a great thing for everyone, honestly, because, you know, just anyone coming into Islam is you know, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us it's better than the world and everything in it.
Yeah.
But imagine now somebody with major influence. I mean, you're the most Googled person on the planet. And most people
Yeah.
Probably true.
I think Putin might have beat me as of last week.
Actually,
but I think
yeah,
it's between
probably.
me and Putin at the moment. But I don't want to lose to Putin. Look, Putin's the big G. I don't want more enemies. Like, it's fine, Vladimir. You can have it.
I never thought I'd hear you saying that statement.
Yeah.
Putin beat me last year. Right?
Yeah,
Last week.
I think we're certainly the most Googled.
But no, it's definitely something beautiful, and a lot of people have. You know, you'll be surprised at how many women as well. Like, because obviously the accusations of misogyny and stuff, which you know, but a lot of women, alhamdulillah, especially in the Muslim world, they're absolutely happy. In fact, let me tell you a story. Just before I came here today, one particular woman, I can't reveal her identity, but she's working as a school teacher in London. And actually, my friend told me that she was kicked out of school because they had this campaign against you in the schools. I'm not sure if you're aware of it.
I've seen, this was part of the cancellation.
What's up, Chuggabug? And how you doing? How you guys doing in the chat? See, there's a lot of you on today. Saturday's the day to do it, man. I love it, guys. I love it. Andrew Race is full of hot takes. That is true. Andrew Tate is full of hot takes, man. He is full of hot takes.
Know about this,
Yeah, so in British schools, they said, you know, if you say anything good about if you say anything good about this person, or you have to be reported or prevent, and if you say anything, you know, you have to kind of combat his extremism or whatever it may be, right? So because when you became Muslim, she abstained from doing that. She said, I can't really do that because, you know, Islamic laws and it's backbiting and it's got honor in Islam and so on. And unfortunately, they fired her from the position.
Wow.
So you can see that this is the level of encroachment we're talking about here. So, and this shows you that the level of fraternity that exists. And not only the fact that, you know, when you're looking at Twitter or whatever social media, it's not a representation of what's really happening on the ground.
Of course. And I mean, that's crazy to hear. And what's most crazy is, the fervor behind this idea that I'm somehow extremist is truly it's truly clown world. Like I've sat as a professional and analyzed my content and understood which things can be taken out of context and which things were said in a way perhaps they shouldn't have been said before I was massively famous. But we have to sit here and understand that if you take anybody on the planet and give them 7 years of YouTube and then they decide and they blow up big, you're going to be able to find 30 to 45 seconds of clip across all those years. That can be
That's true. That is a true point.
And it's truly crazy because they sit and say, oh yeah, but you know the young boys are watching your stuff and they don't truly understand all of it, and there's nuance that's missing. And my argument is very simple. My argument is, well, one, you're taking small clips out of context, and two, there's not a single piece of content on the internet that a 14-year-old boy can't misunderstand. Name someone who's producing content on the internet that you would be 100% happy for a 14-year-old to
drill artists, and so they're saying. I mean, I live in an area that's. I'm not going to mention the names of the artists, but they're talking about going to this person's house and killing him.
And killing him in the middle of a knife crime epidemic. Yeah. We have Lil Nas twerking on having sex with the devil in his music videos. Really? Like, we're going to sit here and talk about how children can be impressionable young children, and I'm sitting there saying there's no way I'm the worst person on the internet. That's not why they deleted me.
There's a difference.
Now, I agree with his point there. I don't know much about Andrew Tate, mainly because I just think I just don't have time to keep up with him. I don't have time to keep up with most famous people. But I just think it is interesting to note that, as he's describing, like Lil Nas and all these other people who are promoting filth really on the internet, that is true. There is a lot of filth promoted through the internet, but this goes back almost to the secular age. So, like, for instance, a lot of what he's describing with Lil Nas and stuff, these are like Hollywood people, these are, famous musicians and stuff like that. I want to be clear, these are all secular people. These people do not follow Christianity. These people do not follow Islam either. A lot of them are atheists, a lot of them are agnostics, a lot of them are secular. And I truly believe it's secularism that is seeping into a lot of these different religions across the world that is corrupting a lot of things. To a certain extent, at least. Again, you're going to meet... I know plenty of people who are not religious, who are really great people, really nice and really moral. And again, I'm willing to talk to anyone. I love everyone. But at the same time, a lot of times if you promote a world system that has no God or objective moral code, it's going to corrupt the objective morals, and it's going to make people more willing to do evil and promote filth. So I just think that's true, the point he's kind of making there about the age of our internet, the fact that people will allow certain filth on the internet and then reject other stuff, and it's crazy. The internet's a crazy place. It's also rather young, so we're still figuring it out.
For them, is, as you've mentioned, on those fronts, it doesn't matter to them because it's like, okay, they're consuming our hedonistic products or whatever it is. That doesn't change their worldview. Whereas what you're saying is ideological now. You're challenging the status quo of the LW, of the liberal world order. You're challenging second-wave feministic notions. You are challenging some liberal notions. You are challenging ideas, commonplace ideas of tolerance. And George Orwell said it very well. He said that the more a society moves away from the truth, the more it hates people who speak it.
Absolutely, and you're right. And I think even the basic things I teach, because some people have said to me, Andrew, all you teach about is personal responsibility, motivation, working hard, getting up and doing the right thing. I said, that's the absolute, those are the things they're most afraid of. If you teach people to have standards for themselves and to be morally strong people and to know right from wrong, then they can't brainwash you. Yes. So that's what they're most afraid of. They're most afraid of young men waking up and going, no, I don't believe that. You have to believe it. No, I don't believe it. I don't want to. And I want to go do this. I want to go to the gym and be strong, or I want to believe X, or I want to be a moral person. They genuinely have a problem with baseline morality.
Yes. Yeah.
Understand? When some people recognize when I converted to Islam that there was a time I was an atheist. There was a time when I was atheistic. And the reason I am now so absolutely certain that God is real is because I've seen evil. I've seen shaitan. I've seen it. When you see enough evil, you realize that there must be an equal and opposite force. And there are people out there in the world today doing the work of the devil, genuine demons, who are trying to destroy the baseline morality that's inside of all of us. We're all born with some kind of morality, and they're trying to destroy it.
And that's exactly the Islamic understanding.
I'm really curious what he means by I saw Satan. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't. I mean, I believe in Satan, and I believe there's demons and stuff like that. But, like, I'm just kind of curious what he's saying. That's just such a vague sort of statement. And I don't know. His statement that if you see evil, there's got to be equal opposite force is kind of a similar argument that is used by apologists and philosophers defending the reason for God. The fact that we have objective morality means that there must be a God. So, like, I don't necessarily disagree with that logic. I just would like to know more about what he means by I saw Satan. So I'm just kind of curious about that.
You're born with something called fitra, which is the initial goodness. You're born with an innate belief, receptivity to believe in one God.
Yeah.
And then that is corrupted. In fact, there's a prophet, hadith of the prophet, where he says, "Kullu mawludin
See
yuladu
a
ala al-fitra."
question in the chat from Chugabug. Is there a platform where you think secularism is hard to find, isn't promoting? Can a platform like that maintain popularity in today's time? That's a good question. I think right now, as far as like, public big time institutions, entertainment specifically, let's go with entertainment. It's hard to escape secularism within the Western culture. But I think if you go to other countries, it's different because, like, if you go to North Korea, the dictator of North Korea dictates what you can watch and what you can't watch. And so it's going to promote whatever the value system of that leader is. And if you go to other countries, they dictate what you can and cannot watch to a certain extent, like China and different things. So I think it depends a lot on the country. But if you're speaking about the West specifically, it's really hard to escape secularism because it has been seeping into the institutions in the West, which I think is leading to a lot of its demise and leading to a lot of what Andrew Tate and some other Muslims I know I've spoken to talk about, the corruption of the West, which has not to do with Christianity, but rather secularism. So I think it's hard to escape. Would something become popular that's not secular? I think so. I think as you create a void within markets, people start getting hungry and start demanding for things that aren't available to them readily. And if someone provides that, then it become popular. But I think, again, it would have to be the right it would have to be the right moment. It would have to be a big enough hole and a big enough desire by the people for revival, if you will, to get away from that sort of secular entertainment, I suppose. And I think you're already kind of seeing it, because I think you're already kind of seeing a lot of conservative outlets starting to grow a lot, and a lot of religious channels starting to blow up on the internet because there's so much a demand for it now, because people want more than just what they're being fed by Hollywood and stuff.
Every born child is born upon this initial goodness. فَأَبَوَاهُ يُهَوِّدَانِهِ أَوْ يُنَصِّرَانِهِ أَوْ يُمَجِّسَانِهِ. And then his father and mother or his parents, they socialize him into Christianity, Judaism, Magiism. So the idea is that everyone is born with this initial goodness and this initial will or want to believe in God, one God. And then, as you mentioned, I mean, it's what you're mentioning here is profound, because you're mentioning a central doctrine in Islam.
But it's and this is why perhaps I found God the way I did, because I understood all these things first, and then I saw the Quran and it confirmed so many things for me. Like even the conversations I've been having so far, so many things have been confirmed, and it's amazing the knowledge that's inside of it, which is so applicable today. For an old book, right? It's supposed to be old, but it seems so timeless. But it's truly amazing. But you're totally right. And the baseline morality, I don't think most people understand that when they're doing this under the guise of tolerance, when they're saying be so tolerant that you no longer believe in right from wrong, they're not doing that to make society a better place. They're doing that to empty your brain so that you have no resistance to the slave mind programming. They want to get you to a point where if they tell you the sky is green, you look at with your own eyes and you see blue.
My only question is, who is he referring to when he says they? Is it the government? Is it the church? Is it institutions? He's using the word they, but not really explaining what they is.
But no, the sky is green. That's what they want. So that you have to have nothing in your brain that can prevent that. If you have God, if you have I believe this is right and wrong, if you have personal responsibility, if you have self-accountability, if you're a person who sticks up for what he believes, all that's bad to them. They want all of that gone so they can tell you the sky is green. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want the stream to end, but they're going to tell you something much worse than the sky is green. They're going to tell you something else. And they're trying to program us all into slaves, and it's scary.
I remember when I was in my undergraduate days, and I was reading a particular book by this guy called Jeremy Bentham, who became the spiritual forefather of J.S. Mill, who is the father of social liberalism of today. And I remember reading this because it was so powerful, because it linked to something I read in the Quran. He said that, you have two gods. He said you have the God of pain and you have the God of pleasure. And I thought, this is so interesting. The Quran states, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you seen the one who takes his own desires as a God?
Yep.
And because now there is no transcendental force that we can look up and, as you say, venerate, now we're forced to be slaves to the system, to our own desires. Or, the Quran has another verse which I think is so powerful, and it connects very well with what you're saying.
I think this is something I think we could, as Christians and Muslims, can share sort of with the agreement, if you will, is that when you start to stray from God and you stop venerating God, you have to venerate, everyone worships something at the end of the day. And if you don't worship God, you're going to be worshiping pleasure. You're going to be worshiping happiness. You're going to be worshiping self-fulfillment, which is going to lead you to have multiple gods, if you will, that may or may not lead you down a good path. So, like, I agree with him. That's why you're going to see more of this secular age or these institutions or these entertainment trying to fill your head with filth, is because they're just pursuing their own desires, and our desires are wicked. And so I agree with that sort of statement. I think there's a little bit of agreement there we can have between the Christian and Islam community.
It says, God ضرب الله مثلا رجلا, that God has struck a parable of a man. فيه شركاء متشاكسون, that he's got many different slave owners. ورجل سلما لرجل, and another kind of man who's only got one slave owner. God is basically telling us in the Quran that you've got one example of one individual who's got multiple slave owners and another one with just one. He says, هل يستويان مثلا, are they the same? So here the idea is, as Rousseau said it, he's a liberal philosopher, he said that man is born free but everywhere in chains. This is the order, because if you don't have that God to worship, then you're going to end up having to worship to everything else. And the whole part of the Shahada which you took, which is
I agree with that.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, the true meaning of that, La ilaha illallah, is that there is no God worthy of worship except for one God.
Yep.
Which means that your desires or the system or these people that want to control us, the problem is they're not worthy of worship. The only one worthy of our subordination and submission is the creator of the heavens and the earth. There's no one else.
I agree, and I completely agree, and I've agreed with this for the longest time. You know, I've never been to like a music concert, and people ask me why, and I said, I just look at it and I feel embarrassed. I look at someone up on a stage dancing around, and I look at hundreds of thousands of peasants in the crowd. Just yeah. I'm like, it's I feel cringe. It's like secondhand embarrassment when I see these festivals and everyone's losing their mind, or these music concerts. I genuinely feel embarrassed for the people who go, because to me that is a form of worship. Like, you can listen to the music at home for free. You don't have to wait in that line and stand out in the cold. Like, I don't know. Perhaps it was a bit extreme, but I've always known that they're trying to give us false idols to some degree. And when I speak to atheists,
I agree, to a certain extent.
Atheists, they go, oh, I don't believe in God. But they've signed up so hard to the liberal woke agenda. They're as religious as anybody, but they're just believing in the wrong things. They're believing in degeneracy, and they're believing in the work of the devil. So humans always need something to believe in. And it's a great thing you said about your own desires. It's like, one guy I was talking to since my conversion says, it's interesting that somebody with everything, all the Western world, everything somebody could want has now converted. And I said, yeah, because even before my conversion, I understood that hedonism is a black hole, and you can never fill it. You're never going to be able to have enough girls to be happy with girls. You're never going to be able to have enough money to be happy with money. You're never going to be able to, drink enough to be happy with drinking. Like, it's a black hole, and you can pour endless things down it, but you'll never fill it up. And you need to have some degree of self-restraint. And I've always been a very disciplined person. I've never made mistakes. But certainly, the higher power is going to
Let me just play it out, I guess.
give you more satisfaction in your heart than endless.
Yeah, all right. So I think that's interesting. So at the end here, he talks a lot about how hedonism is just an empty black hole. And as a Christian, I agree with that. I agree that people who seek hedonism, seek out their happiness, they experience corruption. It's kind of like, reminds me of the picture of Dorian Gray, that story. I'm not sure if anyone knows it. I'm a bit of a nerd. But the story of the Dorian Gray, where he pursues his pleasures. The main character pursues his pleasures and pursues his desires and hopes to be young. And as the story progresses, he becomes more and more corrupt as his sins destroy him. He becomes a completely wicked person and completely just ruined by his wants and desires. And it's true. I've talked to a lot of people who are atheists or secular, who pursue their wants, they pursue their desires, and they completely chase after them. And by the time they're in their middle age, they're depressed, they're upset, they're frustrated. People at my college, they're like, there gotta be more to life than this, because it doesn't satisfy when you pursue your desires only, or if you just worship happiness and hedonism. It just doesn't satisfy you. Normally, it does leave you empty because you keep filling, but it doesn't work. So I agree with that from that standpoint too, that you need to worship something outside of yourself. You need to worship something much greater than yourself, which is God, which is the God who created the heavens and the earth. So I think this is interesting because there's points he made that I agree with. And I still am curious. I think one question, if anyone knows, you can leave in the chat below. Thank you for the sub. YT28K Golden. Nice name. I like it. Thank you for the sub, man. Thank you. Anyway, so where was I? I was talking about now. Oh yeah, I don't know if Andrew Tate is changing his lifestyle. So again, I know he used to run like a OnlyFans account, and like he used to like I don't know, let's just say he was very sexually promiscuous. Is that changing now? Is he planning on changing that? I heard that he's planning on moving to another country, Dubai, I think. So I don't know if that has anything to play with it, but like I would be interested in knowing if anyone knows if he's going to be like changing his ways with women, because that's the biggest thing that was in my head. I was like, all right, he converted to Islam. Is this just a stunt? Is this not? I don't know. But I am curious if he's going to drop his OnlyFans, drop all that stuff, and change his ways with women. And also I'm curious to see if he's going to continue to be as brash as he has. Because I have seen clips from him on the internet, and some things I agree with and some things I don't. He's sort of a mixed bag. He's a very interesting guy. But I have also another video. So that was the first one. I wanted to hear straight from his lips kind of what he had to say. And a lot of what he said I don't disagree with. I would just say that Christianity can also fulfill a lot of those wants if he actually met real Christians and went to a true church that followed the Bible. I think he could find a lot of the same answers to his questions. But that's neither here nor there. I also saw, this is a really short one. I'll save that one for the end. I also saw that some of these other Islam channels were posting about this, and I just was kind of curious if they had anything to add to the conversation. So I'm going to watch a couple of those and go from there and continue to explore what's going on in Andrew Tate's head, and is it properly representing, and just see what he's going through really, and what he's experiencing, and learn more about the situation.
Islam fixes a lot of the problems that men are currently facing. Islam fixes all of them.
Did it open?
I think it's the last religion on the planet. So if it's the last true religion on the planet, then it has to be the correct one.
Okay, I've been hearing him say that Islam's the last true religion on the planet. I don't know exactly what he means, but based on what I have seen so far, I've watched a couple of videos before coming on this live stream. It sounds like what he means is that it's just the only religion left that's not overly tolerant and woke. Which, again, I went on an internship to Penn State, and I've been around Muslims in the West. I have never traveled to the Middle East or anything in like a strictly Muslim country. So I don't have that sort of context, so I won't speak in that context. I can only speak in the context of Muslims I met in the West. And I have met a range of Muslims in the West. Some who are very devout, and some who say they're Muslim but live the most secular lifestyle you'll ever see. So I have met both. I have met both types of Muslims in that regard here. So there are also hypocrites of Muslims in the West as much as there are hypocrites of Christians in the West. So I'm not sure when he says last true religion, does he mean that Islam's the only one that's not tolerant of just everything and actually follows its religion? Does he mean that it's the only religion that's true? Because he doesn't ever really give a defense for why he thinks it's true. I don't know exactly what he means by that. I would just be curious to see if I will ever come across, or he will expound upon that later in this delving into his life and his conversion.
And I'm not a Muslim, but if I had to bet on one religion as if I were betting on the stock market for the future, you have to bet on Islam. Because Muslims are intolerant. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully. Because if you're tolerant of everything, then you stand for nothing. I can walk through London with a t-shirt saying Jesus is gay, and nothing will happen to me. If I did the same thing with the Islamic prophet, I'd be dead before I got to the end of the street.
Boom.
That's how much they...
Now, that's an interesting thing. That's an interesting quote right there. Because to him, does intolerant mean that you can only actually truly revere God and a religion if you're willing to kill? So, is Islam true because theoretically, I don't know if this is true to all nations or all Muslims, and if any Muslims are watching, please let me know. What would you do in that case if someone wore a t-shirt wearing that? I would be actually kind of curious to know if there's actually a way that would be approached within, I don't know, within what context. But I just think it's interesting to think about, like, is it because as a Christian, what would I do if I saw someone wearing a Jesus is gay shirt in public? I'm just trying to think in my eyes as a Christian what I would actually do. I would be disgusted. If I got into a conversation with that person and it got brought up, I would explain to them why it's disgusting. I would agree. I wouldn't. He would still be alive because I wouldn't actually attempt after his life. But also, I think it would be different based on what country you're in. So, like for instance, if you would be in a country where there's actually a law in place that you can't do X, Y, or Z, which involves making fun of the prophet or making fun of Jesus or something, then it's going to be reasonable that you're going to get arrested or face capital punishment or something. So I just think that's an interesting point to make. I don't find it necessarily as, I guess, convincing as he would, because I think his definition of tolerance and intolerance is going to be a little bit different from, I guess, what I would consider tolerant and intolerant. Like, if someone wore Jesus' gay shirt and came to church, we'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to incite this sort of rage? And there'd be someone would approach him about it. But again, I think context, country, region, there's so much nuance that goes into these sort of things that it's just interesting to see how he talks about them.
Believe and respect. And I respect people who stick up for what they believe in. And I've been all around the world. Some of the best countries in the world today are the first world Muslim nations.
Yeah.
You can go to Qatar, you can fall asleep with $1 million on your lap in the middle of the street. Nothing's going to happen.
Saudi Arabia as
you
well.
You can go to Saudi, nothing will happen to you. You can go to Dubai, UAE, nothing's going to happen.
They leave their cars parked with the keys inside.
It's so safe. Women, everyone's married. Every woman obeys her husband. Every single woman has 4, 5, 6 kids. Big families. All the things we're talking about, all the problems we have here, right? They've got none of that. None of it. Because of Islam. Women have big families. Women are exceptionally happy to do so. Society is functioning. Their population is growing, because in most Western countries, the population is declining. So we have population problems in the West. They have none of the population problems. Society starts at the smallest possible group. You have families, and families make a street, and that street makes a village, and that village makes a town, that town makes a city, and that city makes a country. So if it's broken at the very fundamental level, if it's family...
I've never been to only Muslim country, or like a country run by Islamic law and stuff. I would like to. I would like to eventually travel out and see different parts of the country, and different parts of the world, I mean. But of course, like most things, I'm sure this is to a certain extent glorified. Like, it's not like it's a utopia on earth. There's suffering, there's pain, there's people there's bad people, there's prisons, there's stuff like that. Now, I'm curious to see if that would actually be true. I would be interested in delving into that more and learning more of my own personal research. But if that is true, that is interesting. And I think that has also a lot to do with how their governments run and what their government claims to be right and wrong and the level of government enforcement. Government plays a big part into society, health, and control. So Islam probably influences the government, but then how the government actually reaches out to the people influences how people behave. Because if you go back and also in other times where, like, I don't know, if you go to Europe in the medieval times where the Catholic Church was in charge, probably arguably it was also very well enforced and very moral in the sense that people didn't go out and do X, Y, and Z because they're afraid they're going to get killed by the government. Government plays a big part in how people behave.
Levels broken, then it's broken the whole way up.
Yep.
And that's what's happened in the West. And the first world Islamic countries have none of those problems. So if you're going to talk about a belief system that fixes issues, you need to go to Islam. Even though I wouldn't identify as Muslim, I have absolute respect for the ideology, respect for the mentality, respect for the warrior aspect of it.
That is interesting that Muslims started reaching out to him, which doesn't surprise me.
You're interested in Islam.
Yep.
So you don't have to accept this, but this is a choice.
I will accept it.
English translation of the Quran. So if you want to
Amazing.
seek more knowledge.
Thank you very much, bro. I appreciate that very, very much.
Have that.
I'm always out for knowledge, my friend. Thank you very, very much.
My invitation to anybody is put your preconceived notions aside. Take what you may have heard about Islam, what you may have thought about it from your own faith tradition's point of view. Put all of that aside. Read the Quran neutrally and get an unbiased impression. So I'm just going to read this for myself with no other influences as much as possible. At the end of the day, human beings are going to have some bias or the other.
That's true.
But as much as I can consciously be disconnected from bias and give it a shot and read it, I think that would be my invitation to anybody. And I would think it's really difficult to not walk away truly being moved by what you're being exposed to, truly being hit by what you're exposed to.
I've yet to read the Quran, but it's certainly something I'm going to do. I'm going to read it without a preconceived notion, without a preconceived idea. And I think that's the best way to do things, because you're right. There's too much bias in the world.
It's also, I think, a question I keep asking myself is, is Andrew Tate doing this for clout, or is he doing this because he's actually convinced that Islam's real and true? Let me know in the chat, or let me know in the comments what you think. Is he doing this for clout, or is this real? I'm not sure. Knowing Andrew Tate, it could be anything.
This is all haram.
This is haram, bro. This is haram.
Wait, are you Muslim?
Let me tell I'm Muslim, yeah.
Welcome to the new Muslim Tate.
I was born in a Christian country. I was raised as a Christian, and I've always been very respectful of Islam. And it's become more and more obvious to me and more pertinent that Islam is the last religion on the planet. I feel like there's no other religion. People say to me, why did you convert? And I said, I don't really feel it as a conversion. It's almost like I knew God was real and now I've become religious. And also, Islam very closely reflects my personal beliefs. Through my personal life, I've learned that if you don't have standards and you're not a strong person who's prepared to defend his ideas, you'll be crushed. God to me is something to be feared. God to me is someone that people are afraid to mock. God to me is someone that you have to go out of your way to. Old book, right? You know, it's supposed to be old, but it seems so timeless. And I'm talking about truly negative experiences. I've had a few where you come close to losing your life, or you meet other people who come close to losing their lives. Nobody's an atheist at the end, my friend. Atheists stop being atheists quickly when the game gets real.
I think that's true for the most part. Like, I know a lot of people who are more secular or atheists, when things get hard, they turn to God, and then they start questioning whether or not God actually helped them. They fall away, stuff like that. So there's a certain extent of truth to that. I mean, obviously, people are going to argue from every sort of circumstance. So, like, people who've been on their deathbed said, oh, I'm still rejecting God. I didn't actually convert. You know, stuff like that. So, like, again, I do agree a lot of atheists, sometimes when push comes to shove, will convert. But, I mean, it's sort of hard to always judge. We can only base it on our own experiences a lot of times when it comes to those type of claims. But I'm sure I do know from my own experience that is true, that a lot of times when push comes to shove, a lot of secular people realize that there's not much to what they believe, or they're just living for this life, and what is there really then?
So all of us innately understand in God. The most atheist man alive will pray if he really needs help. And also, if we're going to talk about happiness, we're here to be happy and we're here to enjoy ourselves. It's through God that you're happy and enjoy yourself. Yeah, it's not through that black hole of hedonism. It's not through... And
I think, though, what's interesting, though, so, like, hedonism is more about, like, quick hit happiness. Like, you quickly get hit with happiness and you live for that initial jolt of joy or whatever. While I think religion in general, although I would say in the case of Christianity specifically from my own experience, joy is more of, I pursue God, and although I suffer or I go through hard times or I have bad days, I always have hope. I always have hope that God is with me. I always have hope that through the mercy of God, I am forgiven of my sins. I always have hope that if I continue to follow him, he will lead me and guide me in my paths and give me wisdom and help me out and stuff like that. So there's always hope in our suffering, and that's why a lot of times Christians, and I think religious people in general, but again, as a Christian, I know from my own personal experience, that I have hope in Christ, I have hope in God, I have hope in the one I follow, and that's what gets me through those hard times. While if you're like atheist or if you don't believe in God, you may have good times, may be happy, but when you go through suffering, you have to. A lot of times people are grappling for hope because they don't have an extended reason for why they're living. Every second you spend unhappy on earth is, in the case of, if you believe this earth is all there is, every second you spend unhappy is a wasted second because you're never going to get it back. And you're never going to have a future. You have finite time to work with. So every second spent unhappy is a lost time. And if you're depressed for a long time, or you're going through a lot of suffering, or you're struggling a lot, that's a lot of time wasted, quote unquote, in that perspective. And so a lot of times people want to give up because of that. And so I think as religious people, they can look through the suffering and say there's something greater beyond. Whether or not the God they believe in or the religion they follow is true or not, that is to be debated, but on the fact of actually believing it does at least help to a certain extent. And then in the case of, well, I would say for a Christian, since I am following a God that is real, he is truly helping me and stuff like that.
And supercars and and booze. And it's not those things. You can find any man who goes down that hole and tell me, are they happy? The answer is no. Who's the man who's happiest? The man who's praying. If you remove God from society completely, if you click your fingers and he's gone, if you completely remove religion from earth, you'll see the devil appear pretty quickly. Yeah. You'll see mass breakdown of society. Yeah. You'll see crime. You'll see rape. You'll see murder. You'll see theft. And then you'll understand that God isn't real.
The beginning of wisdom is the fear of God, as the Proverbs say. And it's actually funny enough that as the United States, where I abide, the United States, as it progressively became more secular and more, I would say, atheistic in its beliefs and in its approach to life, the actual rates of depression, the rates of anxiety, the rates of all these different things have increased. And also, I think the internet plays a big part in that. But I think also just our general belief system influences that as well. And it's just interesting to see that in real time.
I just truly respect and understand that God is real. And I truly respect and understand that with my own eyes, what I've observed, the truest way to show respect to God is through Islam.
All right. Yeah, it's a lot of it boils down to, it seems like, now I'm going to assume Andrew Tate is being genuine. I honestly can't know for sure. You can't know with the internet. Anyone can say anything they want and, live a completely different life off camera. But presuming that he actually is converted to Islam, it sounds a lot like he had this sort of preconceived idea of how the world operates, and Islam fit the most well with that preconceived idea, and that's why he's following it. How much did he actually delve into apologetics? How much did he actually look into the background of the Quran? How much did he do all that? Who knows? I don't know. It seems to me that he's following it on the basis of, this is what I believe, and Islam lined up the most with it. We'll see how he continues to play out on the internet. I think it's going to be interesting because there's a part of me that believes this might be a whole clout chasing thing. But if it's not, I guess the time will tell. This one's only like a minute long. I think it's going to be the last one, and then we'll close out this live stream. Thank you for everyone who's been on. And if you stick with me in the next few minutes, we're just going to get some final thoughts here from the merciful servant and conclude this video.
Inshallah. Welcome to the new Muslim Tate.
If I had to bet on one religion as if I were betting on the stock market for the future, you have to bet on Islam. Muslims are the only people who will defend their religion. They will defend their beliefs. They refuse to be mocked. Mm-hmm. They refuse to be insulted. And
I'm only like 16 seconds in, but I personally follow a lot of Christian apologists, and I personally study a lot of Christian apologetics and why I believe in Christianity. Christians are not afraid to defend their religion. Christians are not afraid to defend it, at least at an intellectual level. If he means like we're going to go out and get violent and start killing people, no, that's not normally how we defend our faith. We defend it intellectually normally, but that is not true from just a sweeping standpoint. But anyway,
I respect that about them. I have absolute respect for the ideology, respect for the mentality, respect for the warrior aspect of it.
I know God exists. And then you go, okay, God exists, and there's all these different interpretations of God as such, but the only one I see which has a warrior class that people fear is Islam. That's the only one there is.
I know you're interested in Islam.
Yep.
So you don't have to accept this, but this is a choice.
I will accept it.
English translation of the Quran. So if you wanna.
Amazing. Thank you very much, bro. I appreciate that very, very much.
Let's see what his. I think he has a tweet at the end here. This is why I'm Muslim. Any Christian who believes in good and understands true battle against evil must convert. So be patient indeed. Promise Allah is true. Alright, so that's the last tweet. Okay, yeah, so basically it boils down to, it seems like he's converted. By what I heard, he's going to Dubai. I'm just kind of intrigued by that. I don't know where he originally lived. But, so it looks like Andrew Tate is now a Muslim, or at least claims to be. Only time will tell if it's actually true. Again, I'm still curious if he's going to be keeping his OnlyFans account and going to be still pimping like he used to. I don't know. I'm assuming not, if he's actually genuine, but if he's not genuine, I assume he's just going to keep doing what he does. But yeah, I think it's interesting. He makes a lot of claims about Christianity that just aren't true. They're sweeping claims that may be true in his experience, but aren't true broad rip. And he has made a lot of claims that he says, like, this is the case, this is how it is, but doesn't actually give evidence for why it's true. It's just his words against other people's words. But that's per usual. Like, I didn't come in here expecting him to give me apologetics. And also, as he said, he's new to Islam. So if I would want to, I guess, learn more about the defense of Islam, I would need to talk to Muslims, which I am trying to reach out to more Muslims to interview and talk to and have discussion on this channel. I think it would continually be interesting to continue to engage with different religions, continue to engage with talking to different faiths, and continue just to learn on this channel like we do. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me on this channel. Thank you for investigating the life of Andrew Tate with me. Thank you for all the people who have been interacting in the chat. It's been a lot of fun. I always enjoy it when you guys are interactive, staying alive, staying awake, and just staying up with us. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, before I head out, if you like this video, leave a like, comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on Andrew Tate. Do you think he's actually Muslim or not? Is this just clout chasing? Let me know in the comments down below. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and join the Light the World community. So thank you for watching. And as always, everyone, go out there and light the world, my friends.